Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at a pretty significant space mission, something that really shifts the conversation about India's strategic capabilities in space. The Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, they just pulled off a really big success launching the CMS-03 communication satellite.
Yeah, it's definitely more than just, another successful launch. It feels like a confirmation, a very public one, of a heavy lift capability that, frankly, not many space agencies have right now.
Right.
When you dig into the technical reports, the strategic papers, the picture becomes really clear. This mission, it sets a new benchmark operationally.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to give you that full picture.
Yeah.
Why this satellite, CMS-03, why this particular rocket, the LVM-3M5, and crucially, why does the sheer weight of this thing matter so much strategically?
Exactly. We're going to unpack the hardware, the purpose, and what this achievement, back on November 2nd, 2025, really signifies for, the future of India's ambitions in space.
We're trying to get past the one-off success stories and look at what seems like a proven, repeatable system now.
That's it. This is the stuff you need to know to really grasp the strategic and technical weight of it all.
Okay, let's unpack this. So let's start with the big headline, the thing that caught everyone's eye, the scale.
The size.
The satellite, CMS-03, and you sometimes see it called a naval or communication satellite, kind of interchangeably, it was put perfectly into its intended orbit. That's the basic win.
Right. Success.
But the deeper story, the real story here, is the confidence this shows. ISRO's confidence in handling, unprecedented mass.
That's where the payload record just jumps out at you.
Yeah.
We're talking about a satellite with a mass of roughly 4,400 kilograms.
12.4 tons.
Yeah, and that number is absolutely crucial because CMS-03, it sets a new national record. It's the heaviest communication satellite India has launched into geosynchronous transfer orbit, GTO, from its own soil, ever.
4,400 kilograms. That sounds, just immense. Can you maybe put that in perspective? What kind of technical challenge does launching that much weight, specifically from Sriharikota, which is pretty close to the equator, what challenge does that pose compared to launching from further north, maybe?
Oh, it's a huge challenge. It's basic physics, really, and momentum.
Yeah.
You see, launching near the equator gives you a nice speed boost from the Earth's rotation, helps fling things eastward towards GEO. That's good.
Okay.
But every single extra kilogram you add to that payload demands exponentially more fuel, more engine power, more thrust to actually reach GTO successfully, pushing 4,400 kilos, which is right up there at the top end of what ISRO can currently manage. That demands incredibly precise engine control, perfect trajectory management. It's a genuine stress test for the whole launch system.
And the system that passed that test? That's the LVM-3-M5. We hear that name a lot now.
We do.
For someone listening, maybe refresh us. What makes the LVM-3, this heavy lift rocket, different from India's earlier rockets like the PSLV or GSLV? And why is the M5 part significant here?
Right. Well, the LVM-3 was originally developed with the Gaganyaan human spaceflight missions in mind. So compared to the older GSLV and PSLV rockets, it's just a generational leap forward in terms of raw power and, importantly, reliability.
Okay.
It's specifically designed to put payloads in that 4,000 to 5,000 kilogram class, so 4 to 5 tons into GTO. That makes it the go-to vehicle, the workhorse for these big communication platforms.
And the M5?
The M5 just tells you it's the 5th operational mission for this specific rocket type. Each successful flight like this, it refines things, builds confidence, confirms the system's reliability. M5 means we've now done this successfully 5 times. They can consistently handle these really big, expensive assets.
Right.
It kind of moves the whole thing from, developmental promise to routine industrial capability. That's a big shift.
It's a key phrase, isn't it? Routine capability. And we saw that maturity reflected in the launch timeline itself. The sources laid it out pretty clearly. The fully assembled vehicle moved to the pad around October 26th, leading up to the successful launch and orbit insertion on November 2nd, all from the Satish Dhawan Space Center.
Yeah, that 7-day window, moving a fully stacked rocket, carrying a 4.4-ton satellite, getting it launched. It speaks volumes about how mature their ground operations, their integration processes have become.
Sure.
For missions this big, managing risk is absolutely everything. So a clean, relatively quick launch cycle like that, it just confirms they have really solid engineering control over the whole process.
Okay, so we've established the muscle needed, the LVM-3M5, pushing that record 4,400 kilos. Now let's pivot. Let's move from the how they did it to the really critical why. What's the strategic game for India putting such a big bird, so to speak, up there?
Right, and this is where the conversation shifts a bit from pure engineering to geopolitics, really.
Okay.
CMS-03 is what's called a multi-band communication satellite. That just means it can handle lots of different frequencies at the same time.
Okay.
And this dual capability serves two main purposes. Essential civilian broadband needs, sure, but also, crucially, strategic military requirements.
And the sources we looked at really hammered home its role in maritime communication infrastructure, specifically for the Indian Navy. Why is a heavy multi-band satellite like this so vital for naval operations?
Well, think about maritime security operating over vast ocean areas. It demands resilience, and that's what the weight, the size enables. A big satellite like CMS-03 can carry many more transponders, often operating across different frequency bands. You hear about X-band, Q-band, maybe others.
Right.
And the Navy needs that multi-band capacity for a few key reasons. One is security, obviously. Another is resilience against jamming attempts. And also just managing different geographical areas and, importantly, weather conditions. High-frequency signals work great in clear weather, but can degrade fast in, say, a monsoon. Lower frequencies are often more reliable through weather, but maybe offer less bandwidth.
Ah, okay. So having multiple bands means you get constant high-speed communication regardless of where a ship might be operating, say, in the Indian Ocean region.
Exactly.
And potentially regardless of whether an adversary perhaps, is trying to interfere with the signal.
Precisely. This record-breaking payload isn't just acting as a simple communication relay. It's really a hardened strategic asset. It provides reliable command, control, communications, and intelligence, C3I, you often hear it called. The need to, project influence, maintain surveillance across huge stretches of ocean like the Indian Ocean region. It absolutely demands this kind of comprehensive, powerful coverage. And you need a physically large satellite platform to house the necessary power systems, the antennas, the redundancy needed for that kind of strategic lifespan and toughness.
So this means the heavy lift capability of the LVM-3 wasn't just like a demonstration of power for its own sake. It was actually a fundamental requirement because of the sophisticated equipment packed inside CMS-03.
Absolutely.
It's a very direct link between the technical capability, the muscle, and the strategic need.
That's completely the takeaway here. Without the ability to launch this kind of mass from their own soil, achieving that strategic goal, uninterrupted, secure, multi-band coverage over the high seas would have likely required launching multiple smaller satellites, which is inherently less efficient, potentially less resilient. Consolidating all that capability onto one powerful platform, that's a huge operational advantage.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's track the final stages for this mission. So the satellite was put into GTO, that geosynchronous transfer orbit. Can you help us visualize the next step, getting it to its final spot in geostationary orbit? It's not just the simple boost, is it?
No, not at all. It's more like a carefully planned ballet using the satellite's own engines. GTO is this highly stretched out elliptical orbit. It swings in close to Earth, then way out. From that transfer orbit, the satellite itself has to fire its onboard thrusters. Could be chemical, could be electric propulsion these days in a series of precise burns. The goal is to gradually circularize the orbit while also raising its lowest point, pushing it higher and higher until it settles into that perfect circle about 36,000 kilometers up. That's the geostationary belt.
Okay.
And once it achieves that geostationary orbit, the satellite basically hangs over one spot on the Earth's equator. It appears stationary from the ground. That's critical for communications because ground antennas don't need to constantly track it. They can just stay pointed at the same spot in the sky, ensuring that reliable link for the Navy, for civilian users, whoever.
So after the rocket did its job, insertion complete, what are the immediate next steps according to the sources? What happens between that moment and when it actually starts providing service?
The sources point to two really crucial phases next. First are those orbital maneuvers we just talked about, raising the orbit, circularizing it. That can take days, sometimes weeks, depending on the type of propulsion system on the satellite. That's followed by a really rigorous phase called satellite commissioning. This is essentially the in-orbit checkout. They test everything, every single transponder, making sure the power levels are right, checking the satellite stability, pointing accuracy, and validating all the security features, especially for the strategic parts of the payload.
Kind of like the shakedown cruise for a new ship before it takes on passengers or cargo.
That's a great analogy, yeah. Exactly like that. And only once that commissioning is successfully completed, that's when the actual maritime and civilian communication services officially go live. That's when it starts earning its keep, using that full 4,400 kilogram capability.
Right.
But if we connect this back to the bigger picture, this single mission, CMS-03. It's such a powerful statement about ISRO's reliability going forward. The success of this LVM-3M5 launch, it dramatically lifts expectations for all the heavy satellite missions that come next, whether they're purely Indian projects or maybe collaborations.
So this success suggests ISRO is now really ready to kind of scale up the ambition level for their entire space program. It validates the whole LVM-3 platform as reliable.
Yes.
It must give mission planners confidence to design future payloads, maybe for surveillance, climate science, more comms, knowing they have a dependable ride to orbit right from home.
You really can't overstate that confidence factor. It lets India design bigger, potentially more complex probes for deep space exploration. It lets them consider heavier modules for maybe future space station elements. And critically, it helps ensure geopolitical autonomy. They don't have to rely on foreign rockets to launch their most important strategic assets. Being able to launch a 4.4-ton strategic satellite from your own territory using your own rocket, it's pretty much the ultimate demonstration of independence in space technology today.
So what does this all mean? Let's try and boil it down. The key takeaways for you listening. Yeah. ISRO has successfully shown the power, the capability of the LVM-3M5 heavy lift rocket. It's validated its role as the backbone for these big future missions.
Definitely. And they used it to place CMS-03, this record-breaking communication satellite, remember, 4,400 kilograms precisely into its transfer orbit, a major technical feat.
And beyond just the numbers, the tech specs, this mission is a strategic upgrade, a big one.
Yeah, it provides a massive, resilient boost to India's maritime communication infrastructure. That means robust, secure connectivity for the Navy for operations across huge areas of ocean. It's where technical maturity really meets a pressing strategic need.
It definitely elevates ISRO's standing globally. Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to think about, something that builds directly on this proven LVM-3M5 capability.
Okay.
If this rocket can successfully, and now perhaps reliably, launch a complex, heavy, 4,400 kilogram strategic asset like CMS-03, does that number, 4,400 kilos, now represent a new floor? Is it like a baseline standard rather than the absolute ceiling for what ISRO plans to launch consistently for its most critical, high-value payloads?
That's a fascinating question. That 4.4-ton benchmark. It could imply that ISRO isn't just thinking we can lift this much, but maybe this is the minimum mass we now need for the kind of strategic resilience and performance we require.
Right.
This success might free up design possibilities, raise the ambition for even heavier, maybe multifunctional strategic satellites in the future, or perhaps it just enables them to launch these high-capability platforms more frequently. Either way, it feels like the scale of Indian space missions just fundamentally shifted. Something to definitely keep an eye on as we watch this next era of heavy lift satellite deployment unfold. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive. We'll see you next time.